Have you ever seen your dog warm up to one person instantly, then hesitate around someone else for reasons you couldn't explain? No barking, no chaos, just a pause, a stare, a body that suddenly changes. Most people brush that moment aside, but sometimes that quiet reaction is your dog responding to signals you haven't consciously noticed yet. Not magic, not mind reading, but a real sensitivity to scent, tension, movement, tone, and emotional consistency. Dogs are constantly taking in information from the people around them, and in some situations, they may respond to subtle changes before we fully understand what we ourselves are feeling. Once you understand what your dog may actually be noticing, you start seeing those small reactions very differently. Welcome to Mr. Hidden Mind, where we look beneath the surface of behavior to uncover what may be communicated without words. And before we begin, one important note. This isn't a diagnosis, but it can help you tell the difference between normal attachment and behavior that may need support. Let's begin with a reaction many dog owners have seen, but rarely stop to interpret carefully. Number 8. Dogs may avoid people whose behavior feels tense, inconsistent, or uncomfortable to them. Picture this. Someone walks into your home. They smile. They speak politely. They even try to approach your dog, but your dog leans away, freezes for a moment, or chooses distance. To most people, that can look random. But dogs are not only reacting to how a person treats them directly, they also observe social interactions happening around them. In one line of research, the dogs watched humans interact with their owner during a simple task. When a person behaved in an unhelpful or dismissive way, many dogs appeared less willing to engage with that person afterward. That does not mean dogs can measure morality or identify a bad person with certainty. But it does suggest that dogs notice when behavior feels cooperative, calm, and predictable, and when it doesn't. That distinction matters. Your dog may not be telling you who a person is, but your dog may be reacting to tension, inconsistency, or discomfort in the interaction, and that is worth paying attention to. A useful rule for owners is this. If your dog suddenly seems unsure around someone, do not jump to dramatic conclusions. Slow down and observe. Was the person tense? Did they move too quickly? Did they crowd your dog? Did the overall interaction feel calm or pressured? Very often, your dog is not reacting to a label. Your dog is reacting to signals, and that brings us to something just as important. Number 7. Dogs can become cautious when a person feels unreliable. Dogs learn patterns quickly, not just commands, not just routines, patterns. If someone repeatedly signals one thing and then delivers something else, dogs often notice. Research on canine responses to human cues has shown that when a person is consistently reliable, dogs are more likely to follow their signals. But when that same person becomes misleading or inconsistent, many dogs become more hesitant. That is not just obedience fading. That can be trust shifting, and this happens in everyday life more often than people realize. A guest calls your dog over in a soft voice, that then reaches too roughly. A stranger offers a hand, then invades the dog's space. Someone speaks kindly, but their body stays rigid and uneasy. Humans often focus on words. Dogs pay close attention to consistency. To a dog, mixed signals are information. And this gives owners a practical advantage. If your dog seems uncertain around someone, do not force the interaction too quickly. Give your dog distance, reduce pressure, and observe whether comfort grows naturally over time. A calm, predictable person often becomes easier for a dog to read. An inconsistent one may not. That difference can tell you a lot. Now, let's move into something more emotional, and for many dog owners, more personal. Number 6. Your dog may connect your scent with safety, familiarity, and emotional memory. To your dog, your scent is not just familiar. It is meaningful. Humans often treat smell like background information. Dogs do not. For them, scent can carry identity, memory, comfort, and emotional association. When your dog presses their nose into your clothes, your blanket, or your shoes, they are not simply sniffing an object. They may be responding to something deeply familiar. Research on canine scent processing suggests that familiar human scent can be linked to recognition and positive emotional association. That may help explain why some dogs seek out items that smell like their person when they are resting, waiting, or trying to settle. And this is where the insight becomes useful. Sometimes people describe this behavior as clingy or dramatic, but in some cases it may be your dog using familiar scent to regulate stress or seek comfort. So that does not mean every dog with attachment behavior has a serious problem, but it does mean the behavior may have more emotional meaning than owners assume. Simple support strategies can sometimes help. A worn t-shirt, a predictable resting space, a calm leaving routine, less emotional. Build up around departures and returns. Again, this is not a diagnosis, and it is not a replacement for professional support if a dog is in serious distress, but it can help owners recognize the difference between inconvenience and emotional need. And smell is only part of what dogs use to understand us. What they notice in the face can be just as revealing. Number 5. Dogs are highly sensitive to human facial tension and expression. Most people know dogs react to tone of voice. What many overlook is how much dogs may also pay attention to the human face. Research suggests that dogs can distinguish between different human facial expressions, including positive and negative ones. They may not interpret those expressions exactly as humans do, but they do appear sensitive to visual emotional cues, and that matters more than it sounds. Dogs do not only react to obvious anger, they may also respond to subtler facial tension, tight lips, hard eyes, a stiff jaw, a frozen smile, a face that looks friendly but not relaxed. In other words, dogs often respond to the emotional quality of an expression, not just the social performance of it. That is why someone can sound kind and still make a dog uneasy. To the dog, the face and the body may be telling a different story than the voice. For owners, the practical takeaway is simple. When introducing your dog to someone new, do not only ask whether the person likes dogs. Watch whether their expression softens naturally. Watch whether their movement is loose or controlled. Watch whether your dog looks curious or conflicted. Curiosity usually looks fluid. Discomfort often looks interrupted, tight, or hesitant. That difference matters. Now we move into something that can feel almost uncanny when you notice it in real life. Number 4. Dogs can react to subtle physical and emotional changes before we consciously name them. Have you ever felt uneasy in a situation but could not explain why? And then your dog reacted too? That can feel mysterious, but there is a grounded explanation. When humans feel stress, the body changes. Breathing shifts, muscle tension changes. Movement becomes less natural. Scent and perspiration can change. Timing changes. These shifts may be too subtle for us to consciously register in the moment, but dogs may still respond to them. Dogs gather information through multiple channels at once. They do not need a verbal explanation. They often react to patterns in movement, scent, posture, and energy before we consciously label what feels different. That does not mean dogs can predict the future, but it may mean they detect tension early, and this gives owners a useful habit. If your dog becomes unusually alert in a certain situation, pause and look at the full picture. Ask yourself, has the environment changed? Is someone moving in an unusual or tense way? Am I stressed without fully realizing it? Is my dog reacting to the other person or to my own tension? That last question is important. Sometimes your dog is responding to someone else. Sometimes your dog is responding to you. Either way, the reaction may be meaningful information, and in some cases, those changes may go beyond mood and into health-related shifts. Number 3. In some cases, dogs may notice scent changes linked to illness or medical events. This is where people often become too dramatic. So, let's stay precise. Dogs are not doctors. Dogs do not replace medical testing. A dog's behavior should never be treated as medical proof or used to delay professional care. But there is real scientific interest in the fact that trained dogs can sometimes detect specific biological changes through scent. In research and specialized training contexts, some dogs have shown sensitivity to odor changes associated with conditions such as low blood sugar episodes, seizures, and certain disease-related scent patterns. Why this happens is still being studied, but one reason is straightforward. The human body can produce chemical changes when health changes, and dogs live in a sensory world where those changes may be more noticeable. The practical takeaway is not, assume your dog diagnosed something. The practical takeaway is this. If your dog suddenly shows a new persistent pattern around your body, your health episodes, or specific moments of physical change, do not panic, but do take the pattern seriously enough to observe it. Notice frequency. Notice context. Write it down if needed. And if something concerns you, speak with a medical professional or a qualified behavior specialist. Responsible observation is useful. Assumption is not. Now, let's look at something every dog owner sees almost every day but often misreads. Number 2. Dogs read body language with remarkable precision. Before a dog decides whether to approach, avoid, relax, or warn, they are already studying movement. Not just large gestures, small ones, weight shifts, shoulder angle, eye direction, hand speed, approach style, how directly someone moves toward them. Humans often underestimate how much information the body gives away. A person may think they are being friendly because they are smiling, but if they lean over a dog too quickly, move in a straight line, hold eye contact too long, or reach over the head, the dog may experience that as pressure. This is one of the biggest reasons dogs get misunderstood. A dog is not always being difficult. Sometimes the dog is responding clearly to body language that humans are sending carelessly. And there is a practical way to read this more accurately. A comfortable dog often looks loose, curved, rhythmic, and flexible. An uneasy dog often looks still, tight, weight shifted, hyper alert, or suddenly disengaged. Loose often means the dog is open to interaction. Tight often means the dog needs more space or more time. That understanding can prevent mistakes. It can improve introductions, and it can help owners recognize communication before it escalates into stress. Which leads to the final point, the one that connects everything in this video. Number 1. Dogs are highly tuned to emotional patterns humans often miss. This is the deeper idea behind everything we've covered. Dogs do not need to understand the human world the way humans understand it. They do not need our language. They do not need our explanations. They do not need a perfect story. They respond to patterns. Over thousands of years living alongside humans, dogs became especially sensitive to changes in tension, safety, familiarity, routine, consistency, and emotional state. That is why a dog may trust one person quickly and hesitate around another. That is why some dogs settle close when their owner is upset. That is why they can appear to react before we have made sense of our own feelings. Not because they are magical judges of character, but because they are constant observers of signals that humans often overlook, suppress, or explain away. And in many ways, that is even more remarkable, because the hidden world your dog may be reacting to is real. In your breathing, in your posture, in your pace, in your scent, in your tone, in the mismatch between what people say and what their body communicates. So the next time your dog pauses at the door, watches someone a little longer than usual, or chooses distance when others expect instant affection, don't rush to turn it into a dramatic story. But don't dismiss it either. Slow down. Observe. Look again. Your dog may not be judging someone's character, but they may be responding to signals in the moment that feel unusual, tense, or hard to trust. And that is worth noticing. This is Mr. Hidden Mind. On this channel, we do not just look at behavior. We look at the hidden patterns beneath it. If this video changed the way you see your dog, subscribe now. And in the comments, tell me this. Has your dog ever reacted to a person or situation in a way that only made sense later? Because sometimes the first sign that something feels off does not come from words. It comes from the one mind in the room that never stops observing.